Are you ready to take your first steps towards financial freedom by investing in property? Whether you're a first-time investor or you've started your portfolio but need some help continuing to grow, 2022 REB Buyer's Agent of the Year and Rising Star finalist Lachlan Vidler and his team at Atlas Property Group are here to help. As experts in property investment, Lachlan and his team are ready to help you take your next step in growing your portfolio. By completing the research, sourcing and negotiations, Lachlan goes the extra mile to find you a high-performing investment property. Visit atlaspropertygroup.com.au to book in your discovery call absolutely free of charge.
This is a Momentum Media production.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day you are listening. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm Grace Ormsby, and I know I say it time and time again, but I absolutely love the chance to get to speak with so many people out there who are on some really weird and wonderful and crazy adventures with their property investment journey. And I really encourage anyone who's listening along that, has a story to tell to please reach out, because we want to be amplifying those stories. And it's only through sort of, listening to other people's experiences where you're really going to shape what you want your own experience to be. And today's guest, I feel like, is one of those people that does have a little bit of a story to tell. And I'm super excited. We were going to do this while she was in Bali, but that didn't end up happening. She's back in Melbourne now. Gina, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Grace. It's so lovely to be here.
When you reached out, Gina, I was instantly intrigued by your story because from the sounds of it, you only really got into property investing at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago now, but I mean, from what I've heard so far, like you've gone ahead in leaps and bounds. But when was it really that you first were interested in property? What kind of got the wheels in motion for all of that?
Yes, so I went through a breakup at the start of 2019. It sounds very sad, but yeah, I'm like, I need to distract myself. I need to get into something to get my mind off things. So I started listening to podcasts. And so obviously this podcast, a few others that I don't have to name. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So self-growth. That was the idea.
Self-growth. Yeah, self-growth, and just to sort of learn something new. And it was property podcasts that really stood out to me.
Why was it that? Breakups, it's not necessarily, people go for the rom-coms or rewatching the Titanic 100 times, but property podcasts, a new one. But worth it, obviously, for what's happened since then for you. But it was a little while then before you did actually take the plunge. Was it a process then of actually needing to save up to then have a deposit together to be in the property game?
It was definitely needing to save up, and then also doing some research as well. So I hadn't looked into it. My parents weren't investors. They just had the one house they were living, always taking out equity to go on holiday. So it was never about buying property and saving. So it was something I had to learn from scratch, obviously with the help of you. And yeah, just doing some research, looking at realestate.com, and then slowly saving up that deposit, salary sacrificing into super. So I use the First Home Super Saver scheme, which I might discuss as well. And yeah, just getting that all sorted. And it was perfect timing when I was ready to actually make the first purchase.
So you're from Melbourne, Gina?
Yes.
Yeah, but you're living in Geelong now. And we're going to get to all of that soon. But obviously born and bred down there?
Yes, and very eager to move back to Melbourne. It's just far, but I have all my family and all my friends and my job in Melbourne, so I do really miss it.
And what is your job? Because I know you're commuting, aren't you, to make it possible?
I'm a lawyer and I am commuting. We have a number of offices across Victoria, so I am sometimes able to work in Geelong. I'm there today, but most of the time it is Melbourne.
So that does make it a little bit tougher, but we talk about it all the time here as well, the sacrifices that people do make to make, their property investment dreams a reality. And you're one of those people that have clearly taken that route. And again, we're going to be unpacking all of that today. But I am curious at this point, I know a little bit more about the journey than the people that are listening along. But what was kind of your drive? when you first sort of, obviously started listening to property podcasts, what was that strategy that you were thinking would be a good one for you? And why did you think that property investment would be the way to go?
I think I chose property over shares or any other investments just because it's something you can see and you can feel and you know what it looks like. And I did actually work in real estate just as a receptionist for a few years back there. And I loved working around those people and I saw how motivated and driven they were, and even buyers as well. I'd always be so fascinated, like, how can you afford a house? And then when I realized, I could actually do the same thing, it was kind of shocking. But the podcast, you'd have interviews and you'd hear people's stories. And I'm like, wow, I could actually do that as well. So it was really fascinating to me. And I still haven't invested in any shares, even though I'm always about to, but I never actually do it. But property seems fine to me. It's an investment I'm surprisingly really comfortable to make.
That's great to hear. And I mean, considering the environment that we've been operating for the last couple of years, I can understand the hesitation behind going down the shares route, just with all this talk around recessions and depressions and just the economic fallout that we've seen through COVID-19. I love that you still felt comfortable enough to take the plunge into property pretty early on when there was a lot of uncertainty going on. Talk us through that first purchase, because I know that was back in 2020 when we still didn't really know what was going on even with property. So I can understand if you wouldn't have done it at all.
Yeah, so it was all perfect timing. So obviously doing all my research, it was always told to me, buy established, don't ever build. So that was like the number one rule that I pretty much broke with my first purchase. So I did decide to build in the end because of the grants that were available at the time. So I was lucky enough to get the $25,000 COVID builders grant, and then also building in Geelong, which is considered a regional city, I also got an additional $20,000. So that was really enticing to me. And I changed my mind about buying established because I honestly could not afford it on my own. And I was really desperate or eager to actually do this on my own and have a property in my sole name. And, brokers had said to me, you can't afford that much. You should probably do it with your partner. I did end up getting another partner. And I'm just like, no, I just really want to do it on my own. So if that meant I had to go to Geelong, that's what I had to do.
Geelong's proving pretty popular at the moment, being on the coast, not too far from Melbourne. I know you're keen to get back to Melbourne, but, it does tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people, making it a good place for investment.
I honestly love where I am. I love this area. I love being able to go to the beach, and it's not for me because of the Melbourne aspect of things, but I love living here. I've loved the whole year. And yeah, I look forward to going home. I missed Geelong in Bali. I'm like, I just want that fresh air and our neighbours, and it's just such a great place. And obviously the property price increase has shown that as well, because it's a lot more than what I spent on it currently.
Yeah, so let's talk through that now, some of the specs. So you did get $45,000 in grants before you sort of even started, which is incredible. How much of a deposit did you have to stump up?
So as I mentioned, I used the First Home Super Saver. So I was salary sacrificing into that for a year, and I ended up taking out about $30,000, and that was, I think I just added another $10,000 on top of that, but I ended up having cash after it. So I think I only put $30,000 towards it. So it was a 5% deposit, because I also had the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme. So I used that one as well. So 5% to get in, which was great, no LMI. And yes, so in total, the price for the build and the land was $415,000. So really quite cheap. And then also I've probably spent about $5,000 over time with landscaping, and I did the flooring as well. So yeah, it was probably about $420 all up, which is quite cheap. I could have never done that in Melbourne unless I was going really far out from the city. But in Geelong, where I am, it's a suburb called Charlemont, and it's probably about a 15-minute drive from the CBD, 15-minute drive from Torquay. So I kind of I didn't feel the need to be close to Melbourne. I thought it's better to be close to the beach and also close to Geelong City, because it's more so for a person that wants to live in Geelong.
There you go. And obviously with that First Home Loan Deposit Scheme, that has been what has required you to stay in the Geelong area for that year, right?
All of them, from my understanding, the $20,000
Although, yeah, every grant that you've been able to use
stamp duty as well. So I didn't have to pay stamp duty. So pretty much all of them had, like, I think one had a 6-month requirement. Even the super one had a requirement as well. You live in it for 12 months. So all of them have meant I've stayed for 12 months, which is nearly coming up as well soon.
Well, you probably saved a little bit in rent though over that period.
I moved out of home, so I was living with my mum before moving into this property. So it was a big change for me. Then that also contributed to how I was able to save. But yeah, definitely big change moving in and having my own mortgage.
So how much longer then until you will move out? And because the valuation has increased a lot, which is amazing for you, let's talk through that.
Yeah, definitely. So I just had it valued recently and the bank valued it at 630,000. So that's incredible. I'm still pinching myself every day. And yeah, so I took out some equity earlier last year, I believe it was. That was 44,000. And I'm also taking out 62,000 soon. So we're refinancing at the moment so we can make our next purchase. But yeah, so that's really major gains from signing a contract at the start of 2020 to where we are now.
That's absolutely nuts. And while you would have been paying off that mortgage, you've actually not only given yourself 50% capital gains on the initial purchase price, but then to be taking out 100 grand in equity and still having 100 grand left over. That's got to be such a good feeling, only 24 months on.
Oh, it's incredible. There's nothing else I could have done to make this much money. Obviously, keeping in mind 2020 and 2021 were unusual years and we haven't seen this much growth in a really long time. So I do know that it's really good timing, but yeah, I'm just so happy. And my mum always tells me, can't believe you've moved to Geelong. You know, she's a typical European parent. You're trying to run away from me. But it's like, Mum, this is the best decision I've ever made. So yeah, she's still coming to terms with that and she still doesn't agree with it either.
I'm sure she'll be glad when you do get back to Melbourne. We've got more of this story to unpack. And I want to also mention the we, because, you know, it's obviously you've talked about your own property journey, but I know that your partner has been involved in some property investing himself. So stay tuned. We'll be back just after the break.
Ever wondered how you can invest like the top 1% of Australian property investors? Henderson Advocacy has been at the forefront of helping everyday Aussies improve their financial freedom. So if you're a savvy investor or someone just starting out on their property journey, give Henderson Advocacy a call today. Head to www.henderson.com.au. Don't invest alone. Invest smarter.
Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm joined by Gina Sarasiotis, who is currently living in Geelong, but not for much longer. And I want to bring up, you were talking before, and I know you were talking about it really being important to you to be the only person on that mortgage and take that plunge into property on your own. But you do have a partner. So obviously everything just went really, really well for you in 2020. That breakup did wonders by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I was actually pursuing a career in journalism and then 2019 I decided to become a lawyer. So that's also another thing there. So big changes.
Yeah, and all of them paying off. How's the law work?
Oh, I love it. I really love what I do and it makes me really happy and I'm able to purchase properties with the salary. So yeah,
good on
really
you.
Happy.
Well, the reason I bring up the we situation is because you have also shared with me that your current partner has actually done a very similar thing to you. It required some persuasion on your part, but I think that's so interesting as well. Like, how did that actually come about?
Yes, so I think this was around the end of 2019 and we were talking and, he wanted to buy a car with some of the savings he had. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your choice to make. I'm going to, buy a property. At that time. I wasn't sure. And then 2020, he saw what I had done and he's like, oh, okay, maybe I should do the same. And he bought in the exact same estate corner around it. We actually have the same street because it's a circuit and got the 45k in grants. He paid a bit more because he had more borrowing capacity. And yeah, he just copied me. We did the same thing, got double the grants, and I just think it was the most perfect thing. And he's finally got that car he wanted as well using his equity, which I didn't really agree with, but what can you do? At least he has the house.
Yeah, I mean, if the car had come first, it probably wouldn't have happened quite so well, would it?
No way. No. So, and I explained that to him. I used to, ramble all the time, and he didn't even cite the estate. So I went and visited, did so much research, and he's just like, okay, I'll do it as well. And so, yeah, he called the developer, and then there was one lot available. So it was very funny and very sudden. He just woke up one day and decided to do it. But yeah, I did some good.
You did the groundwork there. That's all on you, Gina. I think you deserve a stake in that amount.
I'll always take credit for it. I always remind him, remember what I made you do?
I mean, I don't want to bring the relationship in as sort of part of that journey, but it's probably something that, if you're too established in a relationship, you don't really have access to two forms of the same grants and things like you did. Like, is that how you sort of see it as well? It was just a really, really lucky time?
100%. Like, if we took the usual route and just did it together, we would have just got, 45 grand. We ended up getting 90,000. So double that, and double the equity, double the growth. So I think it was just perfect timing. And yeah, I couldn't have imagined it going better. It's really good. Now we can say we have the 2 properties, and then that helped us buy our 3rd.
I mean, it's an argument for keeping your finances separate, isn't it? But then let's talk now about this 3rd property and what you've done since those first purchases.
So yeah, we used the 45,000. We thought, what's the best way to actually use this money? It's a lot of money. And we decided to purchase an investment property in Adelaide. So this was at the end of 2021. It did take us a bit of time. We wanted to settle first into the Geelong houses. And yeah, we purchased a lovely property 20 minutes away from Adelaide CBD in the northern suburbs. It's called Ottaway, and it has also skyrocketed. So the property we purchased, I will be honest, it's not the best. It's on a good block of land, but I really wanted to get an established property that would grow in value in the future. Potentially we could build some townhouses on it, which the council has said would be allowed in the future. So yeah, I think that's my favorite property out of all of them, and I'm so happy with it. We have tenants in there at the moment paying $330 a week, which is quite low, but they've lived there for 10 years and they want to stay there forever. Essentially, they work in the mines, and yeah, we're just happy with them. They're great tenants. They don't complain, and yeah, we might raise the rent eventually. I know we should look at that regularly, but we're just happy that they're there, and we just really like the property.
And there's always that argument that as soon as you lose a tenant, the week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks that it takes to find someone else, you're automatically losing any gains that you might make off the back of raising the rent. But how much did that property set you back, that Adelaide one?
It's such a good story, and it was just meant to be for us. So we originally made an offer on the property for $420,000. It wasn't formal. I think we just discussed it with the real estate agent. And then we did a building in Pest. We weren't really happy with the results. My partner's dad lives there, and he went and saw it. He's like, don't think this is a good property for you. There's lots wrong with it. And then we decided we'll just leave it for now, see what happens, because it's going to auction. Went to auction, it passed in as well. And then the real estate agent called us on that day. We weren't at the auction. We weren't involved. We didn't even know it was on that day. He called us. He's like, look, please, they really want to sell. We're willing to offer you for $397.
No way.
Like that. Yeah. So well below what we originally offered for it. And we ended up saying, you know what, we're European, we're going to negotiate. So we ended up buying it for $392,500, which is really low, the value of properties in that area. But obviously, because the property isn't, that great, but for the land size, it's just under 700 meters squared. We're just willing to hold that for as long as possible. So that's the price that we paid. And now we've just had a recent valuation come back at 480,000. So, again, that's really great. I think that's quite below the market value at the moment in that area, but just because it was a walk-through val, so I think they just saw the condition of the property. It's not like completely horrible, but it's not, it's not a brand new property either.
But it also sounds like just the potential is what got you in the first place anyway. So any gains at the moment is just, I guess, just another perk.
Yeah, 100%. It's close to Port Adelaide, and we've been to visit the property as well and just drove past it, and we're like, oh, we own that. And I think that's definitely my favorite one. I'm so happy with that purchase. So
I'd love to know as well, Gina, what was it that drew you to Adelaide? Why why did you go there? Because it has been a great market. So was it research or was it the fact that you had a little bit of family around the area, you knew what to expect?
I think being our first proper investment, we did want someone close to us that would be able to go and visit the property. And I think there were some restrictions at the time. I can't remember exactly in terms of travel and COVID. So we just really wanted someone that was able to go and visit it. So my partner's dad, living there. And that really helped a lot. And some research, obviously, knowing that it was a more affordable city, and we had been to Adelaide quite a lot in the past. And it's just grown massively. I know it was nowhere near this amount 2 years prior to COVID. And just again, good timing and just finding something cheap. So I didn't even bother looking in ACT or in Hobart because I know they're too unaffordable. Brisbane, I was looking at a bit as well, but just because we had his dad there, it just really helped it a lot, made us feel more at ease as well.
So this one, you've gone in together on the property, correct?
Correct. That's in joint names.
Yeah. And so then I know, just counting back from the numbers that you've given me, that extra money that you've taken out in the equity, what are you doing with that?
So we're refinancing the Adelaide one as well. Soon we'll have probably about 200,000 that we can actually use. And we are looking to purchase a property in Perth.
There you go. You're just hitting off all the markets that are going off at the moment. It sounds great. Like you planned it perfectly, even though I don't think it was planned that way from the beginning for you. You know, like you've obviously got some solid fundamentals in there, but just also timing has been on your side and being willing to go in on the market when it has been a little bit more risky.
And Perth is the kind of investment I'm still looking into because I am still a bit hesitant. You know, obviously the past market hasn't been the greatest, but I do feel like there may be growth in the future. So I'm hoping maybe we'll be lucky again a third time. But definitely. And then also the plan is once we purchase that Perth property, potentially purchasing one in Melbourne. So we are looking into buying my mum's property, which is in a suburb called Taylor's Lakes in Melbourne. And it's about 30 minutes from Melbourne CBD. So we are looking to do that. My mum's wanted to sell for a while and now she's decided now's a good time. And then we just thought, why don't we try and buy that one? But we are waiting to get the Perth property first because we feel once we have that one in Taylor's Lakes, which is quite expensive, we may be unable to purchase a few investments for a while after that. So we are aware that it does make it hard when you have a very expensive PPR and still making decisions, but I'm really adamant on just getting one in Perth. I've got major FOMO about not having one yet.
There's some great rationale going behind what you're saying, Gina. We're going to take another break there though, and we'll be back to unpack some of that and what could happen down the track for you just after another break.
It's time to get help. Interest rates are increasing. Inflation has hit an extraordinary 5.1%, and the chance to secure a golden egg property is getting narrower by the day. Dragan from Buyers Agency Australia has been presenting the facts and helping property investors make smarter, well-informed, educated decisions in property for years. So, what are you waiting for? Get in touch with Dragan today at www.buyersagencyaustralia.com.au. Invest with integrity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm joined by Gina Sarasiotis, and it's been a great chat with you so far, Gina. I feel like you've done some amazing things in the last 3 years post-breakup. I feel like that was the catalyst for it all. But, you know, everything's obviously worked out for the best. So there'd be no regrets there at all.
Oh, no, it was really good. And I guess it was a combination of that and just feeling like I'm getting older and I'm not doing anything. I'm not progressing in my career. So a combination of a number of things and also just having the most supportive partner ever who just encourages me every day. So, yeah.
Can I just say, you're not that old.
No, I'm 26 now. I just turned 26.
Well, happy birthday. That's still not old at all. And it's an amazing achievement to already have, well, between you and your partner, 3 properties in essence under your belt, looking at a 4th and then looking at a 5th in pretty quick succession from that. And I wouldn't mind touching a little bit more on the family dynamics when it comes to buying what you are hoping will become your principal place of residence, which is your mum's property. And I know that there's a little bit of trepidation there for you as to, just buying into something that is family, as opposed to, we do say, you should take all the emotion out of investing, but it is a hard concept to really tease out. You can't always split them up like that. So talk us through that purchase a little bit more, because obviously the Perth one will happen. What are you sort of hoping to, I guess, pay for a property? What's sort of your upper limit when it comes to that?
I think the sweet spot we have found is $400,000. And looking into Perth, their salaries are quite high. That's the latest research that has come out. And I think $400,000 is really low for a property, and it'll be worth a lot more in the future. So we're always looking, 20, 30 minutes away from the CBD. And there are a few suburbs still kind of around the $400,000 mark, but a year ago, I could have easily found one. Right now, it's really tight, and we're probably going to have to find another one that's not the greatest inside, not the greatest rental return, but I'm okay with making that sacrifice for gains. And
it's a long-term game, isn't it?
Yeah. And, big land, just the basic fundamentals, big land and close to a city. I just feel like I just want to stick to the basics. I'm not interested in apartments or townhouses or going further out into regional. I'm just let's just get one that's close to a city and close to a train station. So yeah, very OG.
Good on you. And so then the family property, as you've mentioned, it's looking to be more expensive. But the fact that it's going to be a PPOR obviously changes the game for you a bit there.
Yeah, definitely. So probably looking around the 900,000 mark, and the value of it's probably not pre-COVID, but the peak of COVID, probably 1 mil. But we have that worry now that we don't want to overspend on it, because the market is dropping and the valuations are a bit outdated now. So that's another thing. That's an awkward part of buying with a family member that we found we're trying to sort of work through. But my partner just woke up one day, he's like, would you want to raise a family in Taylor's Lakes? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. He's like, oh, why don't we offer to buy your mum's house? And so, yeah, we kind of just thought, it's not like living in Brighton or a really expensive, $3 million suburb. And I grew up there and I really love the area. And I'm like, yeah, it's it means we can go on a holiday every year in the future. And, we're really happy and settled where we are, close to a train station, close to the city. So it kind of just stood out to us. We have looked into it a bit. It's risen on average about 7% each year. So it's not major growth, but it is still quite decent, quite reasonable. And yeah, just an area we'd be happy to raise a family in, I guess, and something maybe affordable right now, because we're not sure where we're going to move. And I still have siblings living at home as well. So it would be a matter of them, potentially paying us some board, really low amount, but they could do that if they wanted to stay on. And that's really, my mum wants to move to a different state or somewhere else. And, she just wanted to be reassured that they'll have somewhere to go as well. So it's good timing if it does go ahead. And I feel like it's not the worst decision. It's hard to max ourselves out and buy a PPR right now, but yeah, I think it's worth it if we can get it a bit under market value, and hope the market doesn't crash more than it has a bit recently.
Well, I guess again, the fact that it hasn't gone up too astronomically means that it's not really going to fall as much as some of those suburbs that have seen, enormous price growth over the last couple of years. It's already got that sort of safety barrier built in. And also then I'm actually just really curious from a personal perspective, do you go through the official means of going down through a real estate agent when you are buying through family, or will you do it yourselves? Do you seek independent advice on what the valuation is, to do those negotiations? Have you had many conversations around what that could actually look like?
Unfortunately, not too many. I emailed our broker who's kind of investment savvy, and we're like, how are we going to go with this? And he's like, oh, it's very easy when it's between family. And that's as much as I know. So I'm not really sure. I did some research into what happens with stamp duty because in Melbourne, it's so expensive. It's going to be around 60,000. And I'm just wondering, what's the value it'll go off, because it said, it's not based on the purchase price, it's based on the market rate.
Yeah.
But then what is the market value? We can arguably say it is the amount we spend. So really interested to see how that all plays out. But at the moment, I don't think we have to go through a real estate agent. I think it's okay to just be through a conveyancer and a broker, but definitely something I need to look into a bit more as well. But it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting. And a watch this space kind of thing. I feel like we'll already have to get you back to discuss, what that looks like down the track and whether you can make that dream a reality. But I'd love to know, Gina, before we let you go, sort of what is the long-term play with your property journey? You've obviously done so much already. You're only 26. How much is your portfolio worth at the moment between you and your partner?
I just asked him to do the math for me. He's an accountant. So the value is 1.76 mil, and he said the debt is 1.32 mil.
So that's pretty good.
It's about 75% LVR, because this is just considering the equity we're taking out. So obviously it hasn't all come out yet, but after that's all done, that's what it'll be. So
that's a really good situation to find yourself in that the equity is actually still built in. A lot of people are making those calculations without having even touched that equity. So the fact that you're already at that point with the equity in there, you're doing everything right.
Yeah, no, really good timing. And it's good that we're refinancing now. It has taken a bit of time, though. The banks must have a really major delay. But yeah, our brokers just told us you need to do it now because rates are rising and we don't know that you'll get all of that out in the future. And unfortunately, with both of our equity that we've taken out, so my partner needs to be assigned to the loan as well. So the extra equity that's come out. So it doesn't really make much sense to me, but I just had clarification and they said, no, it's still in your sole name, but it's just the debt that's also got his name on it and vice versa. So if one of us can't pay it, unfortunately, it may fall on the other person.
Okay.
But yeah, that's something as well that we have at the moment. But yeah, still really good.
Yeah. And so then I guess, you've got that third property, just to sort of clarify it for everyone who's listening as well. The third property is in both of your names, and you would do the same with the fourth and the fifth, PPOR.
Yeah, we'll be joint from now on.
Yeah. But then just keep those first ones still separate and let them get as much, I guess, equity out of them as you can. But will you hold them long term? What is that thought process now with those?
Looking to rent my one out because I'm all about keeping a property for as long as possible. Partner is potentially thinking about selling his one. We're just thinking it's not diversified enough having two on the exact same street. So just thinking about that and in talks about it. But yeah, and then also if he sells, he'll avoid capital gains because he's lived there for the year. So we're just going to have to wait and see what he decides in January.
Yeah. I mean, do you get any say in it, or is it, because it's his property, his say, that's separate?
I've told him my opinion. I've told him I don't think you should sell. Geelong's got some way to go, and he's taken that into account. And yeah, he just keeps saying, but imagine, yeah, exactly. But he keeps saying, imagine what we could buy with the amount I sell it for. And then we could buy even 3 in Perth. I'm like, well, yeah, we didn't pay stamp duty. We have hardly any mortgage on it. Well, but yeah, we'll see, to be confirmed, but I am trying to push him to keep it.
I guess another thing that we'll be able to catch up on next time we do chat, Gina. So then, long term, just looking that real long-term lens of what you're trying to get out of this property investment journey, what is your hope that you'll be able to achieve over the next, 5-10 years, even longer?
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to have enough money coming in, a passive income. That means I can go on holidays and I can be free to do what I want. I need to work. When I was on holiday recently, I'm just like, I wonder what my team's doing. And I love working. I don't see myself wanting to retire early, but I just want to have the option there if I want to go to part-time or if I wanted to volunteer some time on the side as well, I could do that. And also I just want to be able to travel the world. So We really love traveling, and we're hoping that, the property investments are able to help us do that. We're hoping to have maybe like $150,000, $200,000 passive income eventually by the time we retire. And we know that we need to buy a few more properties to actually do that. But yeah, we haven't got any advice from anyone to sort of plan out that course. And I'm not sure yet if we want to, but yeah, I think we're so young and there's still so much growth to come from it. So yeah, definitely looking forward to see what that turns out like.
By the sounds of it, it's all just about freedom and flexibility, Gina. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been so wonderful to chat. And as I've already said, I'm already looking forward to the update. So please do keep us in the loop with how everything goes, and best of luck with it all.
Thanks so much, Grace. Really appreciate it.
To everyone who is listening along, we hope you have enjoyed this episode. Please like or review us on whatever platform that you do listen to your podcasts on. Reach out if you have any questions, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Also, let us know, if you're like Gina and you've got an interesting story to tell. We want to hear it. We'd love to chat with you. Same email address, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. As always, stay up to date with the latest news on our website and our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Until next episode, stay safe and well. Bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
It's safe to say the property market has been red hot over the last few years, with some of the markets we've selected in 2021 rising over 40% in a 12-month period. It's very likely that if you're a property owner, your property has gone up 20% minimum in value in the past 12 months, and you have most likely accrued sizable equity that can be recycled and extracted to build your investment portfolio. With interest rates increasing, you might be wondering where to invest to maximise capital growth and cash flow in 2022 and beyond. Well, to save you time, energy and guesswork, award-winning author and regular guest on the Smart Property Investment podcast, Paul Glossop and his team at Pure Property Investment have outlined the top 30 affordable suburbs poised for strong capital growth over the next few years with sound cash flow. Grab your free Top 30 Guide to Property Investment guide today at purepropertyinvestment.com.